Welcome back to Naval Action and episode 33 of A Letter to the King. Those of you new to the series, A Letter to the King is my attempt of keeping us up to date with what's happening on PvP Euro 1. Let's see where we were at the end of last week. So if you recall, the pirates had really begun their push into Cuba and Haiti. The Danes had been stalled a little bit in spreading. The Brits had captured up around or settled into Belize and around Portobello. The Americans had made a little bit of a move into the sort of newbie noob zone. Last week we'd had the amazing battles of Bermuda. And that was about it. It's much slower than it used to be in old naval action now. You've got to get all of this hostility and agitation up. And the alliances have been a bit funky. So this week the Dutch have fallen out of the alliance with the Brits. This is a hangover from the 6 and 9 day thing, just the timing of it all. The devs sort of think they've fixed it. I'm not 100% sure they have. So you get yourself locked into this silly thing where you can actually only vote for your enemies. So the Dutch have fallen out with the Brits from their alliance. The Americans are going to fall out pretty soon, and then these guys will come back in. The Danes spent a couple of days out of their alliance, but they're back in now. And the Swedes are out of the alliance right now, and they'll be back in 4 days. So this is all a bit weird. And they kind of need to sort this out. I guess that'll happen the next time they do some sort of reset. But at the moment we have people sort of involuntarily falling out of alliances, and then in some cases practicing a bit of malarkey to take advantage of the fact they're out for a couple of days. But more of that to come. Now, I should point out before I go any further, you nearly lost me this week. I was struck down by a Category 4 man flu. And so my brain is running at half capacity, which puts me somewhere between a rubber plant and a breeze block when it comes to mental capabilities right now. So I will try and do this as best I can. Let's see what has been going on this week. So first of all, there was a fantastic battle around, I think this is Cartagena. I think it's this one, not that one. Anyway, around Cartagena, where a bit of a combined British and Dutch fleet came up against a Spanish fleet. And this battle got down to probably 5 seconds. There were 14 men left on the last tower with a ship, literally waiting for the timer to tick over. If it had ticked over, the Spanish had lost 18 of their ships in this battle. And I think the Brits had lost 2. However, one of the Spanish captains did the right thing, and he pulled his, I think it was a Santi or a Vic, back to around the towers, managed to drag off one of the Brits, and from memory actually capped him. And in doing so, sort of undid the force that was meant to be capping the towers, as the rest of the remainder of the Spanish fleet was in full flight. So in the end, it ended up being a good day for the Spanish, because not only did they keep the port, the British fleet then got some bad intel from outside the port and set sail, and were then assailed by, sail was used far too many times, I apologise. They were then set upon by many Spaniards and other sorts of chaps who pretty much dismantled their first-rate fleet. So a double blow really, down to the last 10 seconds or so to capture the port in the first place. And that would have been a big victory for the Dutch. With their Brit allies, and then they lost a good whack of the fleet to basically the Spanish screening fleet, and that will go down as a dark day for the Brits. Sort of one bit of bad luck and then one mistake with some bad intel. The guy outside said he thought he saw 10 ships. Later, during his trial and prior to his hanging, it was revealed the 10 ships he saw were the ones who were chasing him, and he was oblivious to those on the docks. So there you go. And then Malarkey. The Danes dropped out of the alliance with Spain for about 4 days, and in that time they then agitated Spain. Now, this is a bit of a question for me. So if you're not at war with somebody, should you be able to drive up hostility in their waters without automatically going into war? Well, I don't know if you should or shouldn't, but you certainly can right now. So the Danes drove up hostility in Ponce and Santo Domingo, and then they went back into the alliance with Spain, and then rather hilariously, when they tried to attack the port, they couldn't. In essence, they were now the defenders because they were allied with the host nation. However, and let me tell you, a few eyebrows have been raised in the British-Dutch-American alliance of this by the magic of patching. Ooh, the magic of patching. There was an amendment made to the code, so now the Danes could capture the port from an ally, which, you know, what, right? And isn't it a lovely port with its stronghold bonus? So well done there, Danes. Good port. And so Santo Domingo is now in Danish hands. I'm sure, look, it's all testing. We're all testing. We're finding these things out. So question 1, should you be able to raise hostility in the waters of a nation you're not at war with? Personally, I would say either no, you shouldn't be able to, or, because the problem is, allies or enemies of that nation can't do anything about it, and allies of that nation can only do missions against AI. Killing you won't reduce hostility the same way. So, not that they would kill you because they're kind of your friends anyway. So I would say either you shouldn't be able to raise hostility unless you're openly at war with somebody, or as soon as you take hostility past 25%, you then automatically go war. And it has ripple effects. It's just basically not right. Otherwise, it encourages nations to drop out of the alliance and flip each other's ports, fundamentally making them untakeable by their true enemies. So a call out to the devs, one of many call outs from this week's letter. Come on, lads, fix her up. What else happened? The Danes, and who'd have thought this, they sailed 135 war supplies, which prior to the weight increasing patch, I think was somewhere in the order of 14 Indiamans, probably with the hold bonus, maybe 10 Indiamans, into Sunbury, or the Sunbury region. And they caused instant hostility and flipped the port in about 5 seconds. Which is, it's worse than a flag. At least with a flag you got an hour's notice, eh? So again, excellent bit of testing, lads. It's good that you're really looking for the cracks in the armour here. Pity you keep doing it on some of the most strategically important ports in the game. That's a little harder to bear. If you were testing, you could have perhaps done it against a less strategic port. Than the only live oak port that the British, American and Dutch alliance hold. However, the devs are pretty happy with you doing this. They've now increased the weight, so it will now take twice as many Indiamans to do a hostility bomb, but you can still do a hostility bomb. Now again, if I was king of the world, I would probably limit the hostility you could raise through supplies to perhaps, 25% every 2 hours or something like that, just so that the opposing side has a chance to react. Otherwise, 3 a.m. in the morning, in we go. Maybe us Aussies should just build a pants load of supplies. Now, hats off to the Danes, because making those supplies is a lot of yakka. There's a lot of materials goes into supplies that are a pain in the arse to make. They're made out of 4 components, and those components in themselves are made out of about 10 things, and those 10 things in themselves are made out of about 20 resources, some of which, like salt and pepper, are quite hard to get hold of. Anyway, they insta-flipped it, and then just to do some more testing, they made sure that you could still all log in underneath the port cutlasses and instantly get into the battle. Historically, in a previous test, you could only get into the battle some of the time. There seemed to be a bug. Well, the good news is they fixed that bug now, so you can now insta-join the battle. Which they did. Then ensued an excellent port battle, it has to be said. There's a couple of videos up of the port battle, and it really does go to and fro. I would say at the 30-minute mark, I think both sides had lost 7 ships. The American-British fleet had ships closing in on the mortar brigs. The Danes used mortar brigs fantastically in the first-rate battles. If you can protect your mortar brig, it can bring all the towers down. Then it can just plonk its payload on top of slow-turning Santies or Oceans or first-rates. And you might argue that at about the 30-minute mark, the Brits really should have, and the Americans really should have pulled back under the cover of the remaining towers. They had an opportunity to snot the mortar brig. And I doubt the Danes, who were really heavily damaged at that point in time, would have been able to capture the port. I'm not saying they would have lost on ship death count, but I don't think they would have been able to capture the port. But the Brits got that sort of bloodlust, and the Americans, and I think there were even a couple of Dutch in there, they got that bloodlust up. There's more than a couple of Dutch. There was a good number of hardy Dutch fellows before I get letters. In fact, a Dutchman was leading it. And probably a little bit of bloodlust. The red haze descended, and the Brits carried on ploughing into the Danes. Now, the Danes, as far as we can tell, and it's difficult to know because we didn't capture any of their ships, I think they had the strong hull bonus. They also had a fair number of Lucian in there, and their durability held out longer than the Allied Dutch, American and British fleet, to the point where, and it snowballs in naval action, the point where the numbers just began to tell, and then there was a great sort of domino effect. And this is actually one of the things I like about naval action. If you think about other games, such as, say, let's take another sort of team-on-team game, something like World of Tanks. If your tank destroyer is down to 1% health, barring a module have been knocked out, it can still do 100% damage. Whereas in naval action, as you begin to take damage, you lose crew. I think they've more or less got the crew balance right now. You can lose crew, and you lose cannons, and the cannon balance seems to be about right now. You lose manoeuvrability and speed as your sails begin to fail. So a ship that's, been biffed up 50% across the board, across the hull, across the sails, had some crew and cannon loss, is not a healthy ship. So I think they've done that really well at the moment. And the Danes, who were, Nelson would turn in his grave. I would say they were using the blob attack mechanic. Maybe it was a swarm hive thing, and it's far more intricate than I realise. But they ended up knocking the Brits and the Americans and the Dutch out of that port. And now they have this port here. So the Americans really are just pinned back, apart from the ports they snaffled down here. And I think the Americans and the Brits drop out of treaty pretty soon. So troubling times for the Americans. But again, the Dane fleet does the do. Then the British tried an attack on Salamanca. Now, Salamanca is probably one of the most defensible ports in the world. The British said, well, let's have a go at this Dane malarkey, but we're not as good as the Danes were. So instead of camping the whole fleet beneath the Salamancan cross swords, we decided to camp half the fleet, one of whom logged in by mistake, and one of whom didn't log out properly. And the rest of the fleet tried to come up the impassable pass of Salamanca. When the Brits did pop into battle, I think they were outnumbered 25-12, and not by the Spanish, but yeah, you guessed it, mostly by the Danes. So the Danes, the first-rate fleet, has got a great batting average now, and it rocked up here too, and basically 12 against 25. The British chose to advance in the other direction. and run away and hide in the battle screen. Well done, everybody. It has to be said after that, the Danes and the Spanish went on a crazy bonkers rampage around Belize waters, I think driving hostility up to about 60-something% before the Brits got their poop together and calmed it all down. There were some fantastic battles at the neck of Salamanca. I was in one where I think from memory, I think the Spanish maybe sunk 14 British ships, but it might have cost them, well, it was at least 2 first rates, and there may have been 2 or 3 second rates that got snaffled up as they tried to get away. But what was really exciting, and I don't know if the Spanish realised this, there was a second British fleet moving in. It was pursuing the other half of the Spanish fleet, and it missed getting into the battle by about 150 metres, less than half the circle's diameter. Otherwise, that would have been a real cracker of a battle. As it was, the BR of the Spanish, they had far too many first rates in there. But that was a great battle. I think it went on for the best part of 70 minutes, and the Spanish sank a lot of British wood for just a couple of first rates attacks, and then, like I said, 2 or 3 second rates got snaffled up. I know I traded a Bologna durability for a Bucentaire one of the Spanish gave me. What I'm hoping is the last of his Duras on the Bucentaire. A lot of general fighting in this area between Belize and Salamanca, getting hostility up and down. It's been very enjoyable. And then equally over here, there's been some fantastic to and froing. I know the French have been involved in both glorious victories for them and some not so glorious defeats around the Windward Islands and Trinidad and Orinoco. And this was really good toing and froing. And then, unfortunately, I suppose the Swedes dropped out of the alliance, and then they used the opportunity to drive up hostility against their allies or ex-allies in Spanish waters, and they've taken Orinoco. And again, this is a bit like the Danes with Ponce and Santo Domingo. And so they're taking Orinoco, and I think tomorrow they'll take Trinidad, which to some extent is a pity, because for me it was where some of the best open water PvP was. And now it's just going to be the inevitable breaking of the Windward Islands, and it'll be pretty hard to go and search for PvP out here. So what's become very apparent this week is that the British active PvP fleet is much smaller. I'd say tops 2 fleets. I would say the Spanish can match them, and certainly the combined Swedish-French can match them. And with the Danes, I would say right now that the upper hand is very much with the Swedish-Danish alliance, along with their Spanish friends. Spain still a little bit quiet, but beginning to get a little bit more active now. We're seeing them drive up hostility. Sweden have gone and got themselves some more real estate, so I assume that this will be their focus. They won't be able to fight against the Spanish anymore, because they'll go back into their alliance in 3 days. Now they've snaffled up this land. I expect the French and the Swedes will concentrate on the Windward Islands. And the Dutch are going to struggle to break out. Twice they've got hostility up to 70%, and twice it's been driven back down. So right now I would say advantage to the Danish, Spanish, French and soon-to-be Swedish alliance at the moment. The Americans grabbed up a few little ports at the cost of the pirates in the Bahamas. To be honest, the French, a lot of hostility setting. The same goes for the pirates. The pirates have done an enormous amount of piracy around here, and they're very egalitarian, the pirates. I know they've taken a lot of Danish shipping away, but anybody in their path gets thumped. But port-wise, they've been a little quieter. And I think one of the worrying things is, for me, we're 2 or 3 weeks, 3 weeks, I think, into the new patch. And I expected probably the game to be gaining momentum after the new patch. However, with some of these mechanics, and just to be clear, I think this is a combination of 2 things. I think it's a combination of we as players perhaps forgetting we're testing sometimes and playing a little too single-mindedly, and really focusing on the battle, which is good because we love the game and everything. But of the 5 ports that exchanged in this week, and 2 defences, I would actually only say 2 were genuine, and the rest involved, for me, I don't want to use the word exploiting, but they involved exploiting. Be it hostility bombs, be it flipping ports of your allies, be it taking ports from people that you're allied with, be it logging out underneath the port cutlasses, and so on and so forth. So I think there was only 2 really genuine port battles this week. They were both fantastic. Yeah, all the port battles are fantastic once you get into them. So we as players, I really think we're aiming at the cracks all the time rather than doing some of the good stuff. I think the devs seem to have lost it a little bit of recent times. I do sympathise with them. They're trying to develop a piece of software while we're falling in love with it and then hating them for changing it. They've just given us our new wood types that pretty much meant it takes 5 people to build a super sexy ship, and it takes you about a week of teleporting stuff around and costs a fortune. Everybody I know who crafts and trades is running out of money, just farming stuff out of their buildings without generating the revenue. And if I was a single player, if I was a clanless single player, or even just a small clan of 2 or 3 mates, I don't know what would be in it for me right now. I really don't, and I worry for the game with that sort of feel. If the game is really 3 to 6 months from release, you don't want to be generating these negative vibes right now. The pirates, look, they've really got no gameplay. They can sort of be a nation, but they want to be pirates. I'd really like to see the pirates get their big first-rate fleet together. At the moment, the Danes are the kings of the first fleets, and I think it's because they've got some great captains. I think they've got some great ships. I think they've caught the British out a couple of times and were a little bit lucky, actually, I felt, at Sunbury. I would love to see them up against the pirate first-rate fleet in a port battle. Although the Danes are dominating right now, 4 line ship port battles, and although they technically didn't win at Bermuda, they certainly won the day as far as blood and splinters were concerned. I would love to see the sort of tactically astute and sort of very technically correct pirate first-rate fleet, the one that dominated at Carlisle, meet the Danish first-rate fleet. At the moment, it's like the heavyweight championship that hasn't happened. They both hold past title belts. I wonder if either of them are prepared to go against the other. But at the same time, I feel as though the pirates might be a bit despondent, not with any inability. They're very, very capable. But just the gameplay, it's wobbly at the moment. So we just got all of our new destructions on how to make our new ships with our fine thises and our fines that and trims. And literally 10 days later out comes a post saying we're going to completely change it all and delete all your ships. Now, if you read what they're trying to do, and for me this sums up naval action at the moment, read what they're trying to do and the intention's good. But they make an announcement, they don't put a timeline on it, then they put a timeline on it, and slowly they're beginning to clarify it. But I actually think, and I know it's difficult, I'm amazed at anyone who can speak a second language. The devs are there in Ukraine, but I really think, I still remember Elite Dangerous when I was playing Elite Dangerous early on. Very similar sort of game. It was slowly coming to fruition. Lots of people dreaming dreams. We've all built this magnificent game in our heads the way we want it. You want to be a trader. You want to be a pirate. Over there, he wants to be a lone PvPer. I want to be a big clan member doing super organised 50 ship manoeuvres. Can it be a game for all of us? We've all got our own imaginary game in our head, and the devs are trying to tell us what they want to do. We get used to stuff, it changes. All those hundreds of hours we've put in. I was chatting with one of the major pirate clan leads. He's been chatting with one of the major Danish, I think, clan leads. I speak with the British and Dutch, some of their clan leads, and everybody's losing good players from the game, or people are getting pissed off that one day carronades are the bee's knees and the next day you use them to shoot fucking seagulls, and only if the seagull's within about 15 metres. They can only fire too high or too low at the moment. And I really feel as though the devs are just, they're trying to do the right thing, they're doing it the wrong way. We, the players, have to remember that we're testing. We have to remember we're testing, and stop exploiting every single crack and actually just do some normal play every now and again. We have to remember we're testing. But I think they should start doing what the Elite Dangerous guys did. Do some of the sort of Q&A sessions. Maybe hold a live stream Q&A session, be it a sort of Twittery, Reddity type Q&A thing, or even, cause God's sake, it is 2017 nearly, do a video, do a cast, do a live stream, and have a chat, because we all love each other, apart from the French, right? And we love to hate them, so that's good as well, in a way, a hand in throat type of relationship. We all love each other. We all want this game to be brilliant. That's why people are getting antsy over it. That's why people are chucking their fucking lollies out the pram when the latest patch note comes out to tell them that the thing they just spent 200 hours doing was a waste of time, or the port that they just did 53 shipments to move to has just had its bonus nerfed in half, making it a complete waste of a bonus. And this is the thing. This is a game that requires investment. It requires investment of time and effort, and it's complicated, and that is great. This is a mature community, but you can't expect people to spend 100 hours moving ports and all the shit, and then the next day you nerf all the bonuses in that port, and you can't expect them just to go, oh good, they're testing, all right? So throw us some carrots, devs. So, you want to delete all our ships so you can bring in a new, much improved crafting system. Hurrah, fantastic. But you also need testers, so chuck us a carrot. I hate carrot and stick. Who likes carrots? No one likes carrots. Chuck us a donut. Donut on stick. Donut on a stick. When you put in the thing to let us do super sexy crafting ships and you delete all our existing ships, how's about you give us all 5 redeemable ships? A first rate, a fourth rate, a shallow water, a small trader, a deep trader. Right? All the same, they don't have to be that good. Just give us someone all running around in our underpants, and we can't craft anything. Or the big guilds who've got wads of stuff stored up in readiness for such a ship apocalypse don't all of a sudden stomp across the map on top of everybody. And then the little traders are just left with nothing. Give us all the redeemable, and give us something lovely. Let us name our ships. Maybe it's a name only we can see, so, you know, everybody isn't driving around in Cock-a-lot, and HMS Frenchies are fags, and HMS Brits are bastards, and things like that. So perhaps only you can see your ship's name, rather than I can't imagine how bad it would be. But anyway, so let's carry on and have a look at where the biff might be next week. And who knows, there could be a patch implemented next week that means all of this goes out the bloody window. But I suspect the pressure's going to be on around the Windward Islands. I think there'll be the hostility generation up and down here. The Brits might have another go at Salamanca. The cloggies will definitely be agitating along Cartagena and next door and around Pampatar. Don't know what the Danes will do. The Danes will probably find a way to take Mortimer Town. through some exceptional testing. I hope you've all noticed I haven't mentioned the fact that the British TeamSpeak mysteriously went off the air twice before port battles. Not a word. The Spanish, I'd love to see the Spanish get more aggressive. They're predominantly defensive now. They had fantastic numbers turn out at Salamanca. That was, as an opponent to the Spanish, that was very disturbing. Although there was a dozen Danes actually in the port battle, there was another dozen Spanish in first rate sitting in the harbour. So that was good to see. The French are a bit quiet. I'm worried about them at the moment. So I think this will be where it is. But like, there's been something in the order of 7 or 8 port battles this week, and I can't see there being more than that next week. So port battles are rare as hen's teeth, which raises the stakes. And this goes back to the, remembering we're testing here and trying to still have a bit of fun. It raises the stakes. If all your nation has is 1 port battle or 2 port battles in a week, and you feel as though your opponent has done you through shenanigans, we all get a lot more sand in our manginas. So, yeah, we're going to have to try and remember to have some fun, boys. And look at this. 3 nations done bugger all this week. The Spanish lost a few, mostly to their allies, in fact, only to their allies. The Pirates lost a few to the Americans, and that's about the size of it, really. Swedes and Danes. The Danes took some American ports, but the Americans did okay because they grabbed up some pirate ports. So that's it for this week's Letter to the King. I'm going to go and blow my nose and cough up various colours of the rainbow. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, and to the pirate chap who comes on and gives me a dislike as soon as I post my video, I hope you carry on. I'll almost miss it. I'm not encouraging anyone else to do that, by the way. Every dislike requires me to kill one of my daughter's baby kittens. I will see you on the ocean, and I will catch you.